Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to episode 1 of the Lying On podcast with me, your host, Jim. This is my roundup of round 1, what I'm calling my 6 again episode. So this is going to be my top 6 talking points in no particular order from round 1 of the 2025 Super League, and what a round it was. We had 38 tries, 24 conversions, a couple of penalties sprinkled in. We had an 82-0, we had a 0-0, we had all ships rising in round 1, really. So, let's get on with the 6 again. So, number 1 for me this week is the first ever, at least in Super League, 0-0 game. This was Wigan versus Leigh on Thursday night. The season opener ended 0-0 after 80 minutes, with Leigh clinching the victory in extra time there with a drop goal courtesy of Gareth O'Brien. And personally, I think that was the perfect way to start this season. Maybe not every season, but this one, that was it. The reason for that is because everyone, really, I mean, particularly Leigh, I imagine, they haven't beat Wigan in 43 years. Everyone is coming into this season as, at the very least, second best. Wigan have already won it. In everyone's hearts and minds before this week, Wigan have already won the whole thing. You know, last year they did the quadruple, did the final the year before, so double champions, won all 4 trophies last year. Nothing much has changed in the Wigan camp personnel-wise. Matty Pete's still there. The Wizard is Bevan French is still there. Jay Field's still running around. Liam Farrell at the helm. So what's different? The difference was Leigh fucking showed up on Thursday night, and it was fantastic. 1-0 is the perfect score because it brings people in. It's interesting. Everybody knows, every casual fan, every football fan, every non-rugby fan knows that a rugby score is something like 42-38. And if you don't follow the sport, you don't really understand what it takes to get a 42-38 game, or 24-18, whatever it is. Everyone understands 1-0. Everyone understands that there was literally 1 point in that game that decided the whole thing. And I mean a point as in a scoreboard point, but also one instance in that game that clinched it. That means that casuals can look at the scoreline and appreciate it, but they can also go online and say, oh God, well, what was it then? What was the thing that broke this game? So that's for the casuals. For the diehards, I think it was just a cracking game. It had everything. It had jeopardy. You know, there's a couple of times there Wigan almost got through, but that Leigh defence was just epic on Thursday. You saw it at the back end of last season creeping in. I'm really glad to see it coming back in 2025. Hopefully, they can keep it up this week. Let's find out. All right, number 2 this week on my 6 again is the overachievers. Last year was a bit of a comedy of errors, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but last year there were some very clear losers in the league, and I don't mean that in the American way where you're a loser. Hull FC won 3 games last year, Castleford not many more, London won 1, so that race to the bottom was well and truly on last year. Everyone knew who was going to be 12, 11, 10 roughly. We just didn't know what order they were going to be in. We knew London were going, but we didn't know what order they were going to be in. This week we've had Wakefield beat Leeds at Leeds. Amazing. We had Hull won their 4th game of rugby in 18 months over in France. We had Castleford just losing out golden point to last year's grand finalists Hull KR, to last year's overachievers Hull KR. And I think that's great. And it's great because as a rugby league fan, I love an underdog story. We're all underdogs, really, in this sport. You know, we haven't got any money, we haven't got any press, we haven't got any support, except for ourselves, and sometimes that doesn't happen. But I think that overachiever storyline is fantastic. I think if you were to point to one of them, personally, for me, as the highlight overachievement of the league, it's not Wakefield bouncing back up and claiming a victory. It's the Hull FC game. That was 24-4 in Catalans. Catalans, Dragons. Hull went down to France and they took it off them. And the best thing about that for me, not the victory. I mean, it was lovely to see Jordan Rapiner and Aiden Caesar doing something again for a while. You know, there he's been kind of in the shadows there. The best thing was seeing the Hull FC fans stood there in their coats. What business has anyone from Hull got going down to south of France, paying all that money, spending all that time getting down there to watch their team get battered, basically? And they didn't. They got away with the win. Absolutely fantastic. That's my number 2 this week. My number 3 and my 6 again this week is Lachlan Lam's right hand. Now, I already talked about the game. We don't need to go into that again. I'm sure there are plenty of girls around Lee who've coveted Lachlan Lam's right hand for a while now, but after this week, we're all after it. That's my daughter. She likes Lachlan Lam, obviously. That try-saving effort from Lam right on the try line. Bevan French was literally holding his hands out to catch that ball to do a really, really simple try. There were no defenders around. Lachlan Lam came out of nowhere, must have jumped 8 foot into the air and just got his fingertips to it. It was incredible. It was amazing. Go back and watch it. We'll try to put some footage of it up there. You know, I don't have any sponsors anyway. But Lachlan Lam, take a bow, lad. That was absolutely fantastic effort. Number 4, Captain's Challenge. This is something I've been a supporter of for a long time, is Captain's Challenge. I think it's great. It works really well in the NRL. You know, there's been some absolutely massive moments in the NRL turned over, or the challenge was the massive moment. It creates jeopardy, it creates intrigue, it creates interest. This week, however, in the Super League, I think it just created about 40 minutes combined of lads stood in the rain and the cold. Like, nothing happened, nothing worked, none of the decisions got overturned. They were all chalked off, inconclusive, unsuccessful, whatever. And that's fine, because that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Part of the challenge is to have the option. Either it's successful or it's unsuccessful, otherwise it would be boring. Otherwise it's basically a free pass to do a wrong thing in the game. The difficulty is, I think, and I heard one of the commentators alluding to it, I think the players are using it a little bit wrong, and Elliot Minchella from Hull Chaos come out and said this a little bit this week, urging captains to use it a little bit more strategically, which is a bit rich because they threw theirs away, basically. But you got to use it in those massive moments. You can't just use it for a knock on midfield because you haven't used it yet, and you think, you know, I'll get over one here. Some of those decisions you got to take on the chin, and some of them are captain's challenges. I think mid-season in the summer when it's nice and players have got the hang of it, I think that captain's challenge is going to really be what we thought it was going to be and be really, really interesting and turn games on its head. Not this weekend, unfortunately. Number 5 for me. This could have been anything. Not anything. Could have been a lot of things. It could have been draws. It could have been golden points. We could have discussed that a little bit. But I think there'll be time for that. There probably won't be another time for Michael Buffer introducing the season. The iconic Let's Get Ready to Rumble, Michael Buffer. Not only that, his brother Bruce Buffer also does the UFC. And can you believe there's Michael Buffer, boxing, Bruce Buffer, his brother, UFC. They're both announcers in major combat leagues. They didn't realise they were brothers. That story fascinates me no end outside of this. So Michael Buffer, the voice of boxing, introduced the league this year, introduced the opening game, the opening round of the league at the Brick Community Stadium, worst stadium name. That's amazing. I wonder if he knew what he was getting himself in for. I wonder, as an American coming over here, seeing rugby league in all its splendour. You know, they've heard a lot about it this year because they're going over to Vegas, don't forget. I wonder if he knew what he was getting himself in for and if he was disappointed by it. Because I've already said, you know, that 0-0 to open the season was amazing for me, personally. I really enjoyed it. But if he was expecting either a trouncing from Wigan, which was probably promised, or at least just like loads of points to go up on the scoreboard, he was probably a bit disappointed with that. Hopefully not. Hopefully he likes a defensive game. But I guess we'll see if he's back next year or at the Challenge Cup or at the final or whatever. Or, I mean, if we're being honest, we'll see how skint he is next year and whether he comes back. All right, number 6. Lots to talk about this weekend. Unfortunately, the thing that everyone seems to be resting on happened on Saturday evening. I was at this game personally at the old TW, and this was Saints' massacre of the Salford Reserves / Academy side. It's controversial for a couple of reasons. Firstly, people don't like the fact that Saints have been given a massive leg up. It's not Saints' fault. You know, they did what they had to do. My wife turned to me halfway through that game and went, man, it's kind of mean that they just put the whole team out against this, isn't it? But bear in mind, Saints put their team out first. They didn't realise Salford were going to do this because the team that they actually had, even if had access to, even with this salary cap not infringement, the salary cap that's been put on them, the sustainability cap, they still had access to the likes of Ryan Briley. You know, I got a really good fullback there, could have saved 2 of those tries at least. And they had access to, you know, other players I can't name. Basically, they could have fielded a really good squad that didn't have Callum Watkins or Mark Sneed in it, and the scoreline would have been halved. Maybe they even would have got a couple of tries back. Paul Rowley insists that there were injuries in the ranks after that game in the Midlands against the Midlands Hurricanes in the Challenge Cup the week before. I don't know, we can't comment on that, but it's probably none of our business, to be honest. The thing that makes it really disappointing is that it was a game on the BBC. So we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to hook those fans. So we had Thursday night 1-0. Whoa, people are probably thinking, when's the next game on? I'm going to try to get into this rugby league thing. It sounds really good. It's on Saturday, actually. It's on the BBC. Oh, great, I'll watch it. And then you just watch a load of teenagers get beat up by grown men. It doesn't spell a good doesn't paint a good picture, does it? And you know, the commentary team. I went back and watched a bit of it on TV. It's a bit redundant to watch that. You know, if I go out and see a game live and it's a really close game, I'll go back and watch it so that I can see the nuances. A game like that, I mean, just spending another 2 hours rewatching that one. I think we knew what happened there, didn't we? We knew